SCP-3001. Red Reality. Object Class Euclid. On the second day of the new millennium, a terrible accident occurred at Site-120, a secret facility where the Foundation experimented with reality-bending devices. The head researchers of Site-120 were Dr. Scranton and his wife Dr. Anna Lang, who had invented a device called the Lang-Scranton Stabilizer, LSS. Point 3. This device was supposed to stabilize the reality around it and prevent any anomalies from affecting it. However, on that fateful day, a sudden earthquake shook the facility and damaged several LSS that were active in Reality Lab A. Dr. Scranton was in the lab, working on the LSS, when he saw a crack in reality open up in front of him. He was sucked into the crack, along with the LSS control panel, and disappeared from this world. He found himself in a place that defied all logic and reason, SCP-3001. SCP-3001 is a nightmare dimension that can only be accessed through a Class C broken entry wormhole. Point 1. These wormholes are created when reality-bending devices malfunction and tear a hole in the fabric of space and time. The Foundation has learned from Dr. Scranton's experience, and has upgraded all its reality-bending technology with new safeguards to prevent such wormholes from forming again. SCP-3001 is classified as Euclid, meaning that it is unpredictable and difficult to contain. Anyone who wishes to study SCP-3001 must have special clearance from 4 different sites: 120, 121, 124, and 133. However, most personnel are advised to avoid learning about SCP-3001, as it is a source of horror and despair. SCP-3001 is not a normal dimension. It is a paradoxical pocket of non-existence, where almost nothing exists except for darkness and silence. It has an extremely low Hume level of 0.032, which means that it has very little reality or substance. This contradicts Cagel's laws of reality, which state that there is a relationship between Humes and spacetime. In SCP-3001, matter does not decay or die as it normally would. Instead, it slowly loses its Hume field and falls apart into nothingness. Simulations suggest that an organism can survive in SCP-3001 even if they lose more than 70% of their body tissue, as long as they keep at least 40% of their brain intact. However, this does not mean that they will not suffer from pain, fear, loneliness, and madness. Dr. Scranton has been trapped in SCP-3001 for more than 5 years now. He has no way of escaping or communicating with the outside world, except for the LSS control panel that somehow still works in SCP-3001. He has used the panel to record his thoughts and observations about SCP-3001, hoping that someone will find them someday. These recordings are the only source of information about SCP-3001 that the Foundation has. The panel returned to Site-120 unexpectedly, when the Foundation was testing some improved reality-bending devices. The panel's return gave the Foundation some hope that Dr. Scranton might still be alive and that they might be able to rescue him someday. However, so far, all attempts to retrieve him have failed. His current condition is unknown, and he might have already succumbed to the horrors of SCP-3001. The Ethics Committee is reviewing whether further attempts to retrieve Dr. Scranton are ethical or not. The transcripts of Dr. Scranton's recordings are below. For the first 8 days after he was trapped in SCP-3001, Dr. Scranton did not utter a coherent word. He was overcome by fear, bewilderment, and rage. He desperately searched for an exit from SCP-3001, but he found none. He finally approached the recording log on the 11th day, but he did not notice that it was functioning for several more hours. I am Dr. Scranton. I was born on September 19, 1961. I am 39 years old. My favorite color is blue. I enjoy listening to Living on a Prayer. My wife is Anna. She has green eyes. I love her more than anything. I am Dr. Scranton. I was born on September 19th, 1961. I am 39 years old. My favorite color is blue. I am 178 centimeters tall and weigh 85 kilograms. My wife is Anna. Anna, please forgive me. My name is Dr. Scranton. I am 39 years old and I was born on September 19th, 1961. I like the color blue and my wife's name is Anna. We got married on August 12th, 1991 and I hope she is alive and well. Please let her be alive and well. Please let her be alive and well. Dr. Scranton. 39. Anna, blue wife. Please, God, please, Anna banana, what is that? Dr. Scranton seems to have spotted the flashing light of the recording module at this point. What the fuck, this thing's actually recording. A metallic clang is heard. Dr. Scranton's voice is very frantic and terrified. My name is Dr. Scranton. Yeah, my name is Dr. Scranton, former researcher at Foundation Site 120. It has been, I don't know, actually, I can't remember. I estimate it's been 10 days, but I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I am and please, is anyone there? Hello? Anyone? No one can hear me, oh God, why the hell is this thing even working? It can't be working, it shouldn't be working, so what the hell? I need to see how long can I talk here. I think there's a limit or something on the recording log, and I can't see anything. I can only see the red light blinking on and off. I can't see any of the buttons next to it. I'm really hungry, thirsty too. I think I should be dead from dehydration by now, but I don't know. Hi, little red light, can you talk to me? Can you talk to Anna for me? Hello? I found the controls. 2 weeks, 3 days, 47 hours and 58 minutes. 2 weeks, 3 days, 47 hours and 58 minutes. 2 weeks, 3 days, 7 hours and 58 minutes. 2 weeks, 3 days, 7 hours and 58 minutes. Oh Jesus. Error with playback. I don't think I need to eat to stay alive in this hellhole. It hurts like hell, but I don't think I'm gonna die. So I guess I have to take it slow. Maybe some miracle will happen and I'll get out of here. Ha. Yeah, right, Dr. Scranton. Keep dreaming, buddy. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna sleep. 3 weeks, 4 days, 19 hours. I have a photo of Anna in my pocket. I almost forgot about it. Little red light, can you let me see her face, please? Just a little bit. I just want to see her a little bit. Hi, Anna, I'm still here. I'll come back, okay? 2 months, 4 days, 3 hours. Hi. It's Dr. Scranton. Yeah, I haven't really recorded much lately. Ha. He laughed. Sorry, I need to stay calm. Breathe. I've been busy. Trying to learn more about this place I'm in. My prison. My kingdom all my own. King Dr. Scranton. God, I smell awful. Is there even air in this damn place? Stinky King Dr. Scranton, king of fucking nothing shit. Sorry. I need to keep this professional. I'll come back when I'm feeling better. Okay, here goes. Inhales then exhales deeply. My name is Dr. Scranton. I used to be a head researcher of Site 120, a Foundation facility that studied various reality-bending SCPs to develop more advanced countermeasures against such threats. For the last 2 months, 8 days, 16 hours, according to Red Light, I have been trapped in what I think is an empty pocket dimension. Alone. Yeah, alone. All alone. I'm calling this place SCP. I don't know. I can't remember where we were. Screw it. I don't know what's happened in the past 2 months, 8 days, 16 hours, but no one else is here to disagree, and at this point I'm just talking into this control panel to keep myself sane. I need to keep a record. Maybe there will be some poor soul in the future who ends up like me, and if this ever actually gets up, maybe Maybe I can help prevent that from happening. That's all I have left right now, and I really need something to hold on to. Ha 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 ha. So yeah, Dr. Scranton documenting a new SCP for future research purposes. That'll have to do. Here we go. Access File Scranton SCP-3001 Logs Section 2. He had been trapped in this place for over 2 months. He didn't know why he kept recording these logs, but maybe it was the only way to keep his sanity. He gave up on the formalities of the SCP Foundation. He didn't care about the item number or the object class anymore. He only cared about finding a way out. He needed to explore more of this place. He tried to recall the special containment procedures for this place, but he realized they were useless. No one could contain this hellhole. He didn't think this place was on Earth. He didn't even know where it was. It had something to do with the stabilizer prototype, he was sure of it. He would tell more about that later. But for now, he just wanted to say that this place was not something you could contain, it was something you could enter. And he entered it by accident, because of some fucked up reality bending shit. And he didn't know if there was a way out. Oh God, please let there be a way out. Oh, living on a prayer halfway there. He checked the time on his recorder. 2 months, 11 days, and 18 hours. He took a deep breath and tried to calm down. Description, stick to the format, he told himself. This place was a reality gap, he thought. It was pitch black. The only light he could see was this little red dot that showed him that his recorder was still working. He couldn't see his hands, or the control panel, or anything else. He had been using the light as a reference point, and counting his steps in every direction. He hadn't gone further than 100 steps. He was too afraid to. What if he got lost? What if there was something out there? What if his hair was turning white from the stress? He couldn't even tell what color it was anymore. And his head was itching like crazy. There was this tingling sensation all over his face. He didn't know what it meant. 2 months, 15 days, and 4 hours. He gasped and cursed under his breath. He had just found out something new about this place. All this time, he thought he was walking on some kind of flat surface. But he was wrong. There was no surface here. There was nothing here. It was like he was walking through a thick black gel that held him up somehow. But if he pushed hard enough, he could sink into it. And then what? What would happen then? Would he drown? Would he suffocate? Would he disappear? Wait, he needed to test this more, he would be back. He realized that his movement in this place was influenced by his own thoughts. He wanted to go in a certain direction, and he did. This meant that this place was not a complete reality gap, as he and Anna had theorized. If it was, he wouldn't be able to move at all, because space wouldn't exist. He felt a surge of excitement and relief. He was making progress, he was understanding this place better. He should have noticed it earlier, when he was able to walk back and forth from the little red light. It also explained why he was still alive, despite not eating or drinking anything. Time barely passed in here. He decided to test his theory further. He stood next to the light and imagined himself going down. And he did. He went down, away from the light, into the darkness. And then he came back up, to the light, to his only source of comfort. He also tried to go up, above the light, and he succeeded. Moving in here was slow and hard, like swimming through a thick gel. 2 months, 22 days, and 3 hours. He greeted the light with a mock salute and a joke. He tried to make himself laugh, to ease the tension and the loneliness. But the light didn't respond. It just blinked at him, silently. He sighed and cleared his throat. He resumed his report on this place. This place barely followed the laws of reality that he and Anna had studied. And by barely, he meant really barely. He checked his calculations again, just to be sure. His calculations were correct. This place had a very low Hume field, according to the standard scale that they used. It was around 0.04, which was extremely low. That meant that space-time existed here, but only on a very small scale. That's why his body didn't suffer from any malnutrition, but that also meant something else. Something that he couldn't figure out yet. He discovered that his movement in this place depended on his own will. He could go wherever he wanted, as long as he thought about it. This meant that this place was not a complete reality gap, as he and Anna had speculated. If it was, he wouldn't be able to move at all, because space wouldn't exist. He felt a glimmer of hope and curiosity. He was making some progress, he was learning more about this place. He should have noticed it sooner, when he was able to walk to and from the little red light. It also explained why he was still alive, despite not having any food or water. Time barely passed in here. He decided to experiment more with his movement. He stood next to the light and imagined himself going down. And he did. He went down, away from the light, into the abyss. And then he came back up, to the light, to his only friend. He also tried to go up, above the light, and he did. Moving in here was slow and difficult, like swimming through a thick gel. 2 months, 22 days, and 3 hours. He saluted the light and cracked a joke. He tried to make himself laugh, to forget the horror and the loneliness. But the light didn't laugh with him. It just blinked at him, quietly. He sighed and continued his report on this place. This place barely followed the laws of reality that he and Anna had researched. And by barely, he meant really barely. He checked his math again, just to be sure. His math was right. This place had a very low Hume field, according to the standard scale that they used. It was around 0.04, which was extremely low. That meant that space-time existed here, but only on a very small scale. That's why his body didn't need any food or water, but that also meant something else. Something that he couldn't figure out yet. 2 months, 17 days, and 2 hours. He lied in his last log. He lied to himself and to the light. He and the light were the only real things in this place. And that meant that over time, the Hume field would try to balance itself out. And that meant that he would lose his reality. He stopped recording and started doing some calculations again. He used Cagel's second, third, and fourth laws to estimate how much time he had left. He was super real. Super duper real. Ultra real, the realest guy in a world of no real. He mocked the light for not having a sense of humor. He was talking about the LSS surge that sent them here. It boosted their reality levels up to a high range. The light didn't understand what he was talking about. He got angry and yelled at the light. The point was, they had more time than they thought before they died. 2 months, 18 days, and 7 hours. The light was wrong again. It messed up Cagel's third law equation. Because of the LSS surge that hit them, they were somewhere between 2.2 and 3.6 on the Hume scale. That was good news, because that meant they had more time before they died. 2 months, 24 days, and 5 hours. He had about 3 years left. 4, if he didn't do anything else. If he had an LSS device with him, he could maybe extend it to 8 years at most. But he didn't have one. He had to find a way out of here before it was too late. Before he reached the point of no return. Before he lost his reality. He realized that his reality was fading away. He felt a tingling sensation on his skin, a sign of his Hume field diffusing. He had only 3 years left, at most. He needed to stabilize himself somehow. He remembered a theory that he and Anna had developed. Even though the Hume field was low here, it was still a Hume field. And because it was so low, the diffusion should take a long time. If he could find a way to contain and recycle the fields, he could slow down the diffusion. He could also try something else, something that was only a theory, but worth a shot. But that meant that he had to leave the light behind. He said goodbye to the light. He apologized for leaving it alone. He explained that he wanted to test something, and he couldn't take it with him. He said that if they stayed together, the diffusion would increase faster. They both needed more time. He needed to figure out more about this place, and the light needed to keep all the information in its memory. He tried to convince the light that it would be okay, that it was stronger than him, that it would only be for a while. He said that he wanted to find a way to keep them alive longer, or even get them out of here. If he could contain enough field, he could maybe escape this place. There had to be an end to this gap, like a wall of a canyon. He needed to find a wall, and then he could. He felt sorry for the light. He hoped that they would still be friends when he came back. He said that he was going now, and that he would see it soon. Access File Scranton SCP-3001 Logs, Section 3. Dr. Scranton had been trapped in this endless place for 6 months, 10 days, and 5 hours. He turned on his little red device, his only companion in this lonely hell. He had been so eager to explore this site when he first arrived, but now he regretted it. This place was a nightmare. It never ended. It just stretched on forever. He had walked in one direction for 2 whole months, hoping to find a way out. But he was wrong. He was so wrong. This place was infinite. There was no edge. There was no exit. He wondered what would happen if he just let himself fall. Would he ever hit the ground? 10 months, 28 days, and 15 hours later, he turned on his device again. There was no ground. And he hated his device. No, he was sorry, he pleaded with it. Please don't leave him. He was sorry he turned it off. Please come back, please. He realized that today was his 40th birthday. Happy birthday to him. He told his device that he was adopted. His parents had dumped him in a box on the street. Some American couple had picked him up and given him this name. Dr. Scranton. He didn't even know his real name. He asked his device about itself. He remembered Anna, the woman he had met in 1988 at this site. She was so beautiful. She still was. Her eyes were amazing. His eyes were dull, but hers, they were stunning. He asked his device if she still cared about him. If she was looking for him. He complimented his device for being a great listener, but he wished it would talk about itself. He joked that they were alone here, right? He laughed nervously, then hysterically. He imitated his device's voice, saying, "I'm sorry, Dr. Scranton, I can't do that." He laughed some more. He asked his device about its family. A spouse. Kids. Anyone. A lover. He begged it to tell him. He wouldn't judge it, just talk to him, please. His head was killing him. And his feet were numb. He told his device that he used to work at a comic store when he was young. It was cheaper then, and he got free stuff every week. Spider-Man was his favorite. Dr. Scranton was in a box on the street. He felt a surge of panic. No, Red, where was his picture? The picture of Anna, his wife, where was it? He searched frantically, desperately. Where Anna, where did it go? No, please no, not this. He saw her fading away. She was fading away. She was fading away. Please Anna, no, please don't leave me, stay with me, it's too early, my math was right, it was right, you should be okay, Anna, I can't touch you, come back, Anna, darling, love, Anna, please, I love you, please don't go, I'm here, I'm still here, Red, help me, Anna, please don't go, don't, black hair, green eyes, 160, black hair, green eyes, 160, black hair, green eyes, 160, black hair, green eyes. 160 black hair, green eyes, 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 160. Dr. Scranton repeats this for 3 hours. Anna and he had married in 91. They couldn't afford the best suit and dress they wanted because of their work, but they looked amazing. Anna looked more beautiful, of course. They danced and danced all night long. They got a week off from work. Even a job like his let them enjoy their honeymoon. He tried to cheer up Red. He asked it to high-five him. Come on. Come on, Red. 1 year, 2 months, 27 days, he screamed. The next recordings only played the control panel's automated voice giving times with intervals of 1 to 3 days with several month-long gaps in between as well. Also mixed are Dr. Scranton's crying, shouting, and muttering. These recordings continue until the time reading reaches 2 years, 7 months, and 28 days, after which they stop to pick up any sound until 2 months later. The recordings only played the control panel's automated voice giving times, with intervals of 1 to 3 days, with several month-long gaps in between. Dr. Scranton's sobbing, screaming, and mumbling were also intermixed. These recordings continued until the time reading reached 2 years, 7 months, and 28 days, after which they ceased to pick up any sound until 2 months later. His voice was noticeably distorted now. It was hypothesized to be a combination of both him and the control panel finally showing signs of reality breakdown. Robert was cold and couldn't feel his legs anymore. He thought he was beginning to hit the point he talked about, low Hume field diffusion equilibrium. He didn't know what was real in there anymore and wasn't sure if he was real or something close to it. He didn't want to die yet. He ran up in one straight diagonal line for 6 months and then went down again for 8. There was still no bottom. He asked Red what he had been up to and if he had been listening for him all this time. Dr. Scranton apologized to Red for falling asleep and asked what he wanted. Red reminded him that they wanted to call their kid Lucy if they had one. Lucy Scranton or Lucy Lang would have a nice ring to it. Dr. Scranton couldn't remember picking out a boy's name. Dr. Scranton tried tap dancing but couldn't feel his feet at all. He recited Cagel's law, which states that Hume fields diffuse, and joked that his balls will eventually fall off if this keeps up. He sang a song that Anna hated and he loved to tease her with it, Anna Bo Bana Banana Canna. It became a joke between them and they made it the words that turn you on. Red acted immaturely and Dr. Scranton sighed, guessing that Red had a sense of humor after all. Dr. Scranton saw spiderwebs on his left hand and remembered a reality-bending spider at Site 120 once. He asked Red to crush it for him when they get out. He calculated that he had traveled at least 300 kilometers down, but it took a lot longer coming up. He wondered if the bottom was bottomless or infinite and beyond. He tried to calculate the rate of Hume field breakdown using modified Promell relations but couldn't remember the constant. Dr. Scranton thought about how long it would take to get out 1 year plus a few more months. He asked Red how David sounded as a boy's name and apologized for waking him up. His hands were going through each other like ice water and he panicked, asking Red for help. His real thumb came off and it didn't even hurt. He thought it was just floating right now and he couldn't even pick it up. His left pinky felt like an onion and it had separated. He could go right through himself and feel inside himself. It felt warm but also cold. When he slept, his hands went in his head and he was sleeping on his back now. He was like static on a TV. Dr. Scranton laughed and joked that he only needed 1 kidney. He asked Red to look at him and let him keep his heart, just his heart. He called out to Lucy and David, asking if they were there and wanting to see them. He got angry when they didn't respond and said it wasn't fair. 4 years, 6 months, and 18 days had passed. Dr. Scranton wasn't even doing it himself anymore. He could feel it happening on its own. He was still scared and definitely wouldn't eat anymore now, but was still really hungry. He recited a nursery rhyme about piggies going to market and somewhere. 5 years and 13 days had passed. Dr. Scranton laughed hysterically for a while before the time reading reached 5 years and 15 days, which repeated several times. He told Red to stop hurting him and apologized for feeling better now. He asked Red how he kept it together and for some help. Red started to go and Dr. Scranton begged him not to, saying that they were still together in the dark. He pleaded with Red to stay with him and said that he could still touch him. No audio was recorded for the next 9 months. Access File Scranton SCP-3001 Logs, Section 5. The automated message repeated the time reading of 5 years, 9 months, and 3 days 97 times. Dr. Scranton's voice was barely audible and coherent, as if through a heavily distorted, muted radio. He thought Red had left him and apologized, saying that there wasn't much left there. He had tried to kill himself 184 times, but none of them worked. He didn't even know how much there was of him anymore, at least 1 foot because he could move, probably a few leg muscles too, but he was wobbly. His insides were shit, but he still had a heart and maybe a lung. This place wouldn't let him stop and he was tired. Dr. Scranton told Red that he did die and didn't want his pity, shock, anger, fear, or anything else. He miscounted and counted from 1 to 220 to 245 several times over for the next 13 hours. He died a lot, tried to suffocate, snap his neck, bite himself apart. This place wasn't real and he left, saw himself on the ground but couldn't go anywhere or leave. He just floated back down, and each time there was less and less of him. He asked Red why he was back now and what he wanted to tell him. 5 years, 9 months, and 12 days had passed. Dr. Scranton noticed that this place was getting smaller and asked Red if he had somehow done this. There was an end here for sure now, a veil further out that hurt like hell when he touched it. The border or whatever was getting brighter, and it wasn't dark anymore. Dr. Scranton could actually see something now and realized how bad he was. 5 years, 10 months, and 10 days had passed. Red was solid and real. Dr. Scranton was real too when he touched Red, but it really hurt when he did. He thought that if he touched Red he might fall apart. The radius was about 3 kilometers and closing, something like Cagel's 4th law, but what the hell was taking it? Dr. Scranton shouted for it to stop because it was causing a collapse, but it didn't stop. The place wasn't collapsing, but there were waves. Dr. Scranton realized that they were windows, not walls, open windows. 5 years, 10 months, and 28 days had passed. He called out to Anna and explained his theory about this place being the space squished between 2 realities stuck together like 2 pieces of paper, a tiny but infinite third in between, like what would happen if you fell into a hole crossing a bridge from point A to point B. This place was a dead end where one of the holes in a Class C wormhole led not to a different universe but to nothing. Dr. Scranton was worried about what would happen to him when he went back and when the window closed. He tried to think harder and harder but couldn't. He moved away from Red because he thought Red was sick or something and asked him to call him when he was feeling better. Dr. Scranton couldn't think right and there was way too much blood. He retched and tasted barf for the first time in forever. He retched again and wondered how he could be throwing up so much when he didn't even have a stomach to hold it in anymore. The bleeding never stopped, and he broke down into crying for the next 2 hours. He felt better now and was thinking straight but didn't know if he was ready to go back anywhere yet. 5 years, 11 months, and 3 days had passed. Dr. Scranton told Red that he wasn't being selfish and that it wasn't him. It was the goddamn waves coming in that were causing the problem. He couldn't be near them because they would kill him. He had passed the 3 years quite a while back and didn't want to die, even after all this time. He was still scared and told Red that he wouldn't understand because he wasn't human. Dr. Scranton apologized for offending Red and said that he didn't mean it like that. He told Red to look at him and said that he was his best friend, but let's face it, Red had a much better chance of getting out of there alive. Dr. Scranton asked Red to leave him alone for a bit because he was sorry. He could hear the waves coming in, the little hum and shake as it hit his ears. It was getting louder every time, and it hurt so bad that he sobbed quietly. He shouted for it to let him go, but it didn't stop. Dr. Scranton groaned and realized that if this kept up, he would be restabilized for another 5 years. The control panel began to pick up a low-frequency hum that came in pulses over the next 5 days. The volume increased steadily, and as it did, Dr. Scranton could be heard screaming, crying, and speaking incoherently in the background. His voice was noticeably shaky when he called out to Red again. The background humming noise had increased to a rate of 20 pulses per minute by this point. 5 years, 11 months, and 9 days had passed when a loud splattering noise was heard as something struck what is assumed to be the control panel. Complete silence followed for 5 days while the pulses increased in volume as well as frequency to 30 per minute. Another loud splattering noise was heard before Dr. Scranton called out to Red again, his voice extremely slurred and almost incomprehensible. Dr. Scranton asked Red for his leg for support, then his lever arm, then his hand. He said he needed to see better, but then changed his mind, saying that no light was needed and he got it, sorry, something else. He called out to Anna and asked her for her eye because he only had one left, her lips so he could kiss her again, her tongue because he was hungry, her brain because he only had half left. The humming was measured at 46 pulses a minute, and Dr. Scranton was sobbing. He whispered an apology to Anna, saying that he didn't mean it and was sorry for being so scary. He asked her if he could hold her hand because he lost his ring and sobbed. Dr. Scranton whispered that it was okay and he would find another way out because there was still enough of him left to figure something out in another 5 years. His laughter broke down into crying that gradually went silent over the next hour. He sobbed quietly and asked Red not to go yet because he wasn't ready. He knew Red wanted to go, but he wasn't ready yet. A splattering noise was heard before Dr. Scranton told Red and Anna that he loved them. 5 years, 11 months, and 20 days had passed, and the hum was now up to 60 pulses per minute. Dr. Scranton sobbed quietly and called out to Anna again, his speech pattern almost regular. A loud metallic bang was heard, followed by a splattering noise as something struck the control panel once again. 5 years, 11 months, and 21 days had passed. On December 23, 2005, the LSS control panel spontaneously appeared back within the Site-120 testing facility, Reality Lab A. Initial Hume field readings of the anchor were stable and a large object materialized within the anchor field. Dr. Lang entered the containment zone and accessed the audio logs of the Lang-Scranton stabilizer interface. She found Dr. Scranton's ring and blood everywhere. Dr. Lang collapsed and medical attention was requested immediately. The audio logs played back Dr. Scranton's name, age, birthday, favorite color, favorite song, and wife's name before mentioning Anna again.